Hello, and welcome to this PowerPoint presentation. Before we start, my name is Jessica Atencio, and I'm a junior at Frostburg State University. My major is early childhood and elementary education, and I'm currently a substitute teacher for Washington County Public Schools. So my goal is to be a kindergarten teacher once I obtain my bachelor's degree. So this is an assignment for English 308, Advanced Composition for the Social Sciences. And this is based on a research proposal. What I did my research proposal on was attachment and how attachment affects young children and all that. So this presentation is called "How Does the Environment Affect the Development of Young Children?" So without further ado, let's begin. So, introduction. The environment the child lives in influences their development, and these experiences with the environment are in the hands of the caregiver. I will discuss the importance of how different factors affect the development of young children. I will also discuss how the quality of care will have an impact on the physical, mental, and social and emotional development for children aged birth, birth to 5 years old. So here we have a few key terms. We have attachment theory, nature versus nurture, early childhood, Erik Erikson's developmental stages, and Bowlby's theory of attachment. So in this presentation, we're not gonna go deeper. We're not gonna go deep into Erik Erikson's developmental stages and Bowlby's theory of attachment, but I'm gonna briefly explain it here. Erik Erikson's developmental stages are from ages birth till adulthood. And what I based my research on was the first two. So we have trust versus mistrust, and we also have industry versus inferiority. Also, Bowlby's theory of attachment, he discusses that there's a secure attachment, insecure. We also have the how do I say this? The insecure and the disorganized. So these are affected by how the caregiver interacts with the child. For example, in the early developmental stage, for example, if a child is in the trust versus mistrust, a caregiver needs to give that child the secure environment because the child cannot fend for themselves. They depend on the caregiver for food, for changing their diapers, and all of that. So if those needs are not met, what is going to happen is that the attachment that they will develop will be insecure, meaning that the child does not trust the caregiver. So we have here nature and nurture. So this is a term that we have probably heard before, and nature versus nurture can be defined as the difference between the genetics that people inherit versus the environmental influences that accumulate over time. So nature is what we inherit. Nurture is the environment that we live in. What should we know? The study of epigenetics, that is, the study of changes in gene expression that do not involve alterations to the underlying DNA sequence influenced by the environmental factors and behaviors. So the study of this epigenetics has changed the nature versus nurture debate landscape. So genes are not static but are impacted by nurture environment, making it possible to change and override gene expression. So the debate turns out that it is both. They both influence development and attachment to the caregiver. And a child that is born, for example, completely healthy, if that child is exposed to neglect, to insecure environment, then they're gonna develop stress. They're gonna be depressed, and they're not gonna be healthy mentally. And if your mind is not healthy, then your body starts to respond. For example, when somebody is stressed, they release the hormone called cortisol. So this hormone is not good if it's constantly like if we're constantly stressed. This hormone activates our fight or flight mode, which means that we're gonna be like alert all the time, and that's gonna reflect on our bodies. Like we're gonna lose hair, or we're not gonna be able to sleep at night, and we can develop anxiety and heart problems and so on and so forth. So how secure attachment works. Remember that secure attachment occurs when the child and caregiver relationship is good, when the caregiver meets the needs of the child. So a child feels safe, they do better in school, they are less likely to have low self-esteem, and their stress levels are low. So the hypothesis. The proposal will examine how situations that surround the caregiver can also influence the quality of care. So, economic disadvantage, the age of the parents, or whether the child is being cared for by their biological parents. So, we will discuss the sources that were in this research proposal. So, a study called Parental Sensitivity and Nurturance, authors argue about the importance of development during the early years. The brain is developing faster, and there is a lot of neurological activity happening. Some also argue that the age of the mother plays a significant factor in the attachment of the infant because these are considered populations that are at risk. For example, teenage moms are populations that can be considered at risk and have a higher probability of being abused physically, sexually, or emotionally. Childcare can boost the development of children from high-risk families. It was found that children with insecure attachments to their mothers can securely be attached to non-parental caregivers at high-quality, safe, and extensive early child care centers. So, this is a little bit mixed because, as we know, not always the situation that a person is in is going to affect the child. It is the relationship that the caregiver has with the child. So, in many instances, I've seen families that are not well off economically, and they do take care of their children. So, um, lack of economic affluence does not equal child neglect or insecure attachment. So, I'm gonna tell you a little story that makes emphasis on the importance of loving children and taking care of children. So this is a TV show that I really like a lot. That is called Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. The episode is called Just One Lullaby. And in this episode, a new teacher comes to town, and they are very happy because they were needing um a teacher. So the thing is that the teacher punishes children by beating them, and she, in her mind, the teacher thinks that that is the correct way. But then when people find out that this is happening, some of them are very upset about that because they don't want their children to be beaten. So, for example, this little guy, he comes to Dr. Quinn. By the way, Dr. Quinn, yeah, is a woman here. He comes to her and she sees that he's like bruised and all that, and then she asks him like, "Oh, what happened to you?" And he then ends up telling her what really happened. So all the children in the town are very scared of going to school. So Sully, one day, this guy here, Sully, goes to the teacher and tells her a story, and he starts by telling her, one day there was a king that came into a small village and said, "Hey, my son or daughter is among all the newborns in this village. When I come back, I hope that my child is treated with care and all their needs are met." So as years pass by, all the children are growing up, and you can see that in the village. They build schools, they build churches, they had a lot of things going on for the betterment of children. So once the king comes back, he sees all of this. He sees that all the children are healthy and loved and well taken care of. One day, an old woman comes to the king and says, "Please tell me the truth. Is my daughter the princess? Oh, if only you just saw her, how cute she is and how lovely she is." And the king says, "All the children are my princess and princesses. They all are my sons and daughters." So that means that all children deserve to be taken care of despite who they are, where they come from, and the situations that they are in. So again, the discussion between sources says that child care can boost the development of children from high risk families. So it was found that children with insecure attachments to their mothers can be securely attached by, for example, somebody at school, like a teacher at school. So this reiterates that it's not about the situation itself, but about how parents in that situation provide protection and care to the children. Not all families are able to avoid hardships that are considered stressors for the parents. So my proposal is that children in different environments should be observed naturally without intervention from the observer. This can occur in the classroom, at home, and in their interactions with their parents. This type of observation is called naturalistic observation, where the observer does not interfere with what he is observing. So the person observing the child is not going to know that he or she is being observed. Just to make that clear. The study will be over the course of a year at 3-month intervals. The family dynamics and interactions with caregivers and infants or children would be observed. So the samples, the age of the children from birth, they are from birth to 5. The first sample will be a family below the poverty line, where both caregivers work but are also healthily attentive to the children. The second will be a dysfunctional middle-class family where a single parent is the head of the household. And the third sample will be a single teenage mother who still lives in her parents' house. So after the research is done, we will compare the results. So once these samples are taken, the results are compared to determine what would be the cause of attachment issues in infants and little children, if there are any. Once some factors have been ruled out, the reason for that result will be analyzed. At this point, it would be considered whether this outcome is due to nature or nurture, the dynamics with the parents, economic status, or either some congenital issue. So we would consider the results, and we're gonna find out what is actually causing the type of attachment the child develops. So, conclusion. The causes of insecure attachment are not yet specific. Research on children's natural environment needs to happen. It has to be, and it is a combination of nature and nurture. And poverty does not equal insecure attachment. So here are the references. And yes, I hope that this presentation was helpful. And